Yeah, I wanted to make an elevated genre film, but also a sort of detailed character study that explored our society's, desperate need for validation. The film's universal appeal lies in the dilemmas it presents. If you could achieve your lifelong dream overnight, would you do it? Especially if you felt like you truly deserved it. And under what circumstances or conditions would you commit a seemingly victimless crime? And how far would you go not to get caught? Um, I think I think it's really important as a director to always have a dialogue with your actors, and to hear, this character that you guys are creating together is really a collaboration. And so, I mean, for instance, I'll talk about Alex, for example. He wanted to cut his hair in a certain way because he felt like that's what Jesse's hair would be like. And I was like, I love that. And he had it sort of trimmed up on the sides. And it was like, I've never seen Alex look like that before. And he wanted his ear pierced. And I was like, okay, let's do that. And, he created a social media account in Jesse's voice called Jesse Wilcox Loves Peace. And he would create, posts in his voice leading up to the shoot and all throughout the shoot. And he would write poems that he would send to me, and a few of them actually made it into the film. But he's someone that wholly embodied the Jesse character and took what I sort of gave him and elevated it. Kiersey and I had numerous conversations about who this who Susie was and how she would dress. And so much of her clothing, for example, was, we bought at thrift stores, secondhand. So the idea is that, it was stuff from her mom, old stuff that her mom had. She doesn't have the ability or the money to go to and get the newest trends. She is working 3 jobs and trying to go to school, and just support her and her mom, and clothes look like the last thing that she cares about. And it's beautiful. She doesn't care about that. That's not something that she cares about. It's not on the forefront of her mind. Her podcast, what comes out of her mouth, is the thing that's most important to her. And with Rachel, Rachel and I had many conversations about Jillian. Rachel's such a talent, so plucky, so effortless. There's probably another movie where it's just Jillian. I could have made the movie just about Jillian in another sort of version of it, but she's such a delight, and all 3 actors, along with Jim Gaffigan, Ken Marino. All of my actors in this movie, I got very, very lucky. They're such pros, and really brought such brilliant depth, but also, just had such interesting takes. They were just so funny, and it was such a joy to work with them on set, but also get to sort of craft their performances in the edit. Yeah, I think from the get-go, I wanted, because it's an elevated genre film. It's a satire. It's the world is heightened. I wanted to utilize. I was really interested in that, the sort of kinetic energy, making a movie that moved. So whether it be camera movement or quick cuts or or transitions, I wanted the energy to feel kinetic. I also, it's a very quirky film. So, I'd sort of spoken to my editor very early in the game about really, interesting transitions and split screens and morphs, and there's a lot of graphics. It's quite stylized, this film. So, all of those different elements contribute to sort of what you see, and that sort of energy. I instituted this film club for all my department heads, and we met once a week on Saturday mornings. I would assign, 1 or 2 movies a week, based on camera movement or tone or graphics or color palette or costume. And we would sort of talk about it and talk about why I assigned it. But there were a few films specifically that, I can talk about, were an inspiration. I assigned Amelie, which was, an inspiration for its really creative camera work and its transitions and its color palette. I assigned To Die For, which is a Gus Van Sant movie, because it had a very similar tone. And then, specific color palette, creative graphics, and editing. I assigned Election, very similar. That's Alexander Payne for tone and graphics and camera work. Lady Vengeance, tone and transitions. La Femme Nikita for its lighting and texture and tone. Last but certainly not least, In the Mood for Love, Wong Kar-wai. Very different tonally, but very sumptuous colors, very textured, very specific color palette. But those films, I would say, were a few of the films that I assigned, along with the photography of Alex Prager and Gregory Crewdson. But those were some of my inspirations. But I took bits and bobs from a lot of different films and made Susie. Yeah, music is so important to me. As I sort of mentioned before, I think music is a really wonderful way to establish tone, especially with a tone like Susie, where it's sort of constantly towing that line between satire and thriller. So I created a Spotify playlist of sort of the music that I thought that felt like Susie Searches to me, and I sent it to my entire crew really early on to sort of help elucidate some things that they could listen to while they were driving to set in the morning, or if they just wanted any sort of peek into my brain, along with all the other things I did, like the storyboard and the Dropbox folder that I created. But anything that I could sort of make to help translate my vision, I wanted to do, because everyone metabolizes information differently, and I think it's important to. And so back to the music, Mitski and Perfume Genius, a lot of the other, Natalie Bergman, Talk to the Lord, which is on there. A lot of, truth be told, every single song in Susie, minus I think one, was on that Spotify playlist that I made, which is such a testament also to our music supervisor, because these are pieces that I love, that we were editing to, and I had no idea if we were going to be able to get, because of our budgetary constraints. Joe was able to, and you cut them into your movie and you're like hoping, praying, crossing your fingers that, that Mitski and Perfume Genius, they both, I was told, watched the film and then said yes after they watched the film. And I love artists. I think I wrote letters to both artists because those two songs specifically were really important to me, and they had such an emotional weight behind them, and sort of at least with Washing Machine Art, we were editing to Mitski, to that song, so it had such an upbeat, syncopated beat that we were editing to and learning by Perfume Genius. That was really important for me, that sort of emotional weight when Susie's sort of trying to figure out what her next move is. She's at a low point, but yeah, I think I feel so lucky that I was able to get all the music. So John Natchez was our brilliant composer, and he came on quite early. I think he was one of the earliest people that I started working with, it just because music is so important to my process. And very early on, before we were shooting, he was sort of sending me music that I would give notes to. We sort of talked about Susie's the theme of her podcast music, and which we were able to sort of implement or use while we were in the edit, while we were assembling the film. But we had a really wonderful shorthand in terms of, this, what I was looking for with score, this sort of non-traditional percussive sounds. And he sort of took what I wanted, and I also sent him a Spotify playlist of score, of specific score that I was really interested in, and he listened to that, and and sort of we were able to sort of take what I wanted and elevated that to a whole new level. Yeah, I'm so excited for you to see this film. It was such a joy to make. I can't say enough about my incredible cast and crew. And this was a true sort of labor of love. And I hope it makes you laugh. I hope it, puts you on the edge of your seat. I hope it keeps you on your toes. I think it's a really fun story. I think I hope that it makes you a little bit more empathetic and compassionate. We live in such a interesting time. We live in a cancel culture where people are so quick to judge people and make assumptions about them based on something that happens. And I hope that this movie sort of makes you take a step back and understand that maybe people are complicated and multifaceted and human. Even though Susie's actions are slightly morally ambiguous, I hope that you empathize with her as a character. I hope you root for her. I hope you see yourself in her, because I certainly do. And if you like the film, tell your friends and support the film, because independent film needs the most support it can get.
College students, apparently he's been missing. I'm gonna be famous one day when I solve this case and become a big hero.
フォロワーのいないポッドキャスターが難事件に挑む。
I'm Susie. It's okay.
I owe my life to you.
I'm just still curious how you found him.
Following me?
SNS に取りつかれたインフルエンサーが巻き起こす予測不能のスリラー、スージーサーチ。